And welcome back to another Econ podcast with Mr. Hagan. And on this podcast, we want to finish talking about the kind of organization of economic thought. And I talked in the last podcast by saying I'm going to begin by thinking about praxeology, the study of human action. And I was going to break that down into history, what have people done in the past, and economics, why have they done it? Why do people behave the way they behave? That's what we're trying to explain in economics. And then we broke that down into positive economics, which was testable factual statements, and normative economics, which would be opinion or non-testable statements. And I said in the classroom, we're going to try to avoid the normative and we're going to focus on the positive. And so we're going to take this positive and we're going to break that down one more time into micro and macroeconomics. And of course, I could break this down into many other fields of economics, but I'm just going to break it down into these two, that is micro and macro. And so what is microeconomics? Microeconomics, the way I'm going to say it is it's kind of the study of the small, of the individual units of something, while macro is the study of the big, the aggregate, the total, the entire economy. It's all the small individual decision-making units all together make the big. Okay, make up macroeconomics. So maybe just some examples. Well, again, I said the micro is the individual decision makers. The macro would be the study of things like gross domestic product, which would be total output of everybody in society. Another way to think about it is the micro would be like just the consumer or just the individual firm by themselves and how they make decisions. The consumer has to decide how much of a good am I going to buy. The firm has to ask how much of a good am I going to produce. Those are all microeconomic questions. The macroeconomic questions deal again with the big aggregate overall entire economy questions like gross domestic product. How much are we producing as a nation? What are the prices of what's happening to the prices of all goods and services in society together? That would be talking about inflation or unemployment for all of society. So we have to put all this again back in an organized structure. We have praxeology, study of human action. Why do people behave the way they do? That would be how I'm going to describe economics. And then I want to focus on positive economics, doing science, making factual and testable statements within the two subfields of microeconomics, the study of the individual decision makers, and within macroeconomics, the study of the entire economy. So I hope that all kind of gives you some intellectual grounding as to where economics fits in the philosophy of how people behave of human action. This has been Mr. Hagan on another Econ podcast. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you on the next podcast.